Hey guys, what's up? Rob at Groove User here with another video for you, and in this one I want to talk to you about all of the tools available in GroovePages and just take you through every tool and what you can actually do with it. And we're going to be going into expert mode so you can see what the tools do and how you can use them in your GroovePages websites to best effect. So let's jump straight in there and take a look. So if we head over to GrooveFunnels, log into GroovePages and open up one of your pages, you can follow along. If you followed along with our previous videos in this series, then hopefully you'll have built something similar to this website here, and you can follow along on the screen. So we built this site out. It's just a simple one-page site. We've got a contact form on there. There's another video which shows how to enable this so that it actually works. So in this one, I want to show you the tools. On the right hand side, when you click on an element, you get all of these tools. So let's explain what each one does and how you can use it in your GroovePages websites. So when you click on an object, you get this menu on the right hand side, and that's where all of your editing is done. So by default, this expert mode is switched off. It's a little toggle switch here, and what it gives you is a set of tools that are relevant to the item you've selected. So you might get a slightly different set of options depending on what you've clicked and selected on the main page. Now I would advise having expert mode on even if you're not an expert, because I think the layout of it is simpler and you always know where everything is once you get to know where the tools are. Whereas with this expert mode off, it can appear that these tools move around and it's almost like you can lose track of where your tools are. So I'm going to have expert mode switched on for this demo, and with that on you can see that you have this list of tools here, and within these each one has a drop down that you can then go and change further settings and parameters. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to start at the top on this right hand side and we'll work all the way down to the bottom. We'll go through every tool so you guys know what you can do with them and how you can use them. So when you click on an object on the page, you'll get a slightly different option at the top depending what you've clicked on. Sometimes you'll get, if I click on this block, which is the main block here on the page, you'll see there's nothing at the top here. The first thing is expert mode. If you click on something else that gives you further options, you get this design and configure above the expert mode. So for instance, with this logo here, if I click on configure, that lets us choose the image that we want to have in this box. This is an image box, a round image box, which we used in a previous video. You can add your alt tags and you could add links. So this would effectively be like a button that would select out to a page, another page within your website, a block within your page. You can navigate. So if you wanted to send that to click, that it would bring you down to, say, here, you could set that. You've got it to take you to a specific URL or a pop-up. And if you've got a pop-up, these are created over here on the left-hand side. We'll go through those in another video. But when you would click this image, it would trigger the pop-up that you've created in GroovePages. So that's what that does there. If you select something different, other than an image, so let's select this this container over here which has got text in it. This is now giving us the chance to configure the gutter width. And a gutter it's an old sort of bookbinding term, print term, whereby if you're binding a book, you don't want the text to be too close to the edge of the book. You would include a gutter so that there's a clear edge where you've got a clear space for the text. So if I set this to extra large on this, you'll see if I update, it's put in this, what's called a gutter, down the left-hand edge. It's not something I particularly use in here because I would control that with the other controls further down the margin and so on. But I'll show you that when we get there. So that's this top bit. So whenever you click on something, if it gives you the option to configure, if there's something further you can do with it, that option will be up there. If there's not, such as this box here, expert mode will be the thing at the top. So the next thing down is the states. These refer to buttons mainly, or things that you'll click on. So if we go down the page, we've got a contact form which we configured in a previous video. to collect customer information and email it back to wherever we want it to go. So I've got nothing on here at the moment. Basically, when you select this, it would just say submitted successfully or something like that. But if you wanted this to change color when you hover over it, you select it, you click hover, and then you're affecting the hover state. And then I'll go through these tools in a minute, but if we wanted to select the background of this button to change the color, it's under background, and then we click to change the color. Let's say we want it to be yellow. And now when I hover over, see, it turns yellow. Now you've got two other states in here. So if we undo that, right, the next one you've got is active. And that is, if you're using a mouse on a computer, that's while you're clicking and before you release the mouse button. So let's show you that one. Let's make that a select active. Let's make that a blue. So if I click and hold the mouse here, it's blue, and when I let go of the mouse, that lets go and goes back to its previous setting. So that's, you can have that when someone clicks a button, for instance, to show that they've clicked it. And then the other option is focus, and what that does, I'll just show you, let's just change it to a different color. That's when you've clicked on it once, and I've let go of the button. But now, until I click somewhere else on the page, that will stay on. I'll click somewhere else, and it goes back to what it was. I click it, it stays active to the color I set under focus until I click somewhere else on the page, and that goes back. So you can choose how you want a button to behave in terms of its colors by using those three states. The one I would tend to use the most is just the hover, so that when you get the when someone clicks the button, they know that they've gone over it, and they're going to get some sort of interaction from that button, some sort of feedback. So that's that one. The next one down is the transparency. So that's fairly straightforward. If you wanted this to be, transparent, and this is referring to the whole container and everything in it, because that's what I've selected down here, you can go 100% is fully transparent, fully see-through, and then you've got different percentages, and it goes up in tens from 0 to 100. So 0 transparency or none is obviously you can see it 100% on the screen. The next one we got is global style. So for instance, you can set, if you've typed out, say you're making a website and you think, right, I like this title of this text, this color, the size and everything, I'm going to save that so I can use it elsewhere. You can create a new style, call it a new name, let's say purple heading. And as soon as you tick, that is now saved. And if I wanted to add more text further down the page, I can bring in an element, type my text out, and I can reformat it to my style. Instead of going and changing everything individually, I can just select my style, and now that's brought up the same information that was here. And you can edit those styles anytime in here. You can create as many as you like. And if you want to edit them, get rid of any, you can click on this edit here. You'll see all the styles that you've created. You can click on the 3 dots. You can either rename them, clone it. If you want one that's very similar, you might want one that's the same size but a different color. You could clone it and just change the color. It saves you recreating the whole style from scratch. And you can just delete the ones you don't need. So we'll get rid of that for now. And the next one down is text. So if I click on here, when you click on an element, it will normally open up the one of these it refers to. So normally if you click on text, it will open up this text box. If you click on something else, then that would be collapsed automatically. So the idea is you don't have all these ones open all the time, otherwise you'd have to scroll all the way up and down to get everything you need. So let's click on some text. If that is closed and you want to open it, you just click on it like that. So you can choose your font up here. You've got a list of different fonts. You can choose your size as you wish up here. Then the weight, that refers to the, it can be either hairline, that's how thick the font is. So hairline font is very thin, then light, normal, semi-bold, bold, and then black is the thickest. And it depends on the font you're using. Some will have more options than others. So if I go black on there, you see this has only got a few options. Then you've got bold, and then you've got normal. It depends on the font. Some have more options than others. In this case, I'm just using black. And the next one is the background. So in this case, we've used it here. I've clicked on this block, which is on the page, and under background, we've selected a background image. And because we've got an image in, that's then given us these further options down here. If I click on a block that doesn't have an image in the background and click on here, there's no option because I haven't chosen an image, whereas this one, I've chosen an image and then it's given us these extra options down here. So let's look at the standard option first. Let's click on this block, and that gives you the option in here of changing the color. So I could pick this to be green, for instance, and then once you've got the color, you can then choose the opacity or transparency of that color. So 100% transparent is obviously see-through, and you've got sort of 30%, and these work in 10% increments. So that's that, and this is how we created these effects up here. If we go to background, we've just got a black background, and that's a 30%, and you can see as I drag that up and down, it changes how see-through that color is. So let's click on this block and go back to the image options. So under here, once you've chosen your image, you've got a few options here. I'll just turn this one off so you can see what it will do. So repeat is if you've got a small image, it will repeat it within that box, and you can choose repeat, no repeat, repeat along the X axis, repeat along the Y axis, so on and so forth. Then you've got three options in terms of size. Contain, if you click on that, that will show the original image. It will show the entirety of the image within your block. So you can see it's this image is too tall to fit in this block at the full width without cutting off any top or bottom. So it's sort of reduced it down in size. Then you've got cover, which is what we've used, which makes it cover the entire block, but it is cutting off some of the top and bottom. And obviously, if you had an image that was a slightly different format, it might enlarge to cover the whole thing from top to bottom, and it might cut off some from the top, from the left and right. And then you've got auto, which just keeps it at its original size in terms of pixels. So if we look at this image, it's 1000 pixels wide, which is this distance from here to here, and we've got extra pixels at the side, which it hasn't incorporated. So I normally use cover if I want to fill an entire block. And then in this example, we've used Parallax, which makes the image stay in place as you scroll down the screen. So I've got 3 blocks here with that enabled. They're all set to the same thing with Parallax on, and you can see that's the second block, and that's the third block. They've all got the same image in, but because Parallax is selected, and we've got the same settings, they're all set to cover, they're all set to Parallax. That means as I scroll down the page, where the blocks meet, they tie up exactly with no seam. So if I was to turn Parallax off on one of these, or even on all of them, you'll see the difference. So now they all start from the same place, and it all looks a bit of a mess. If I put Parallax back on all 3, they line up, we get a nice image, and we can scroll down and the image stays in place. Okay, so that's that one. Then the next thing you've got is border. Now this refers to the edges of any container or anything you've selected. So for this one, if I click on here, this has got, if I click off it first, you can see it's got a curved edge or a curved corner. So that's been used with the border option. So So if I click on there, you can change how curved the edges are, or you can have them square. So if you take that right down to 0, so it's just got the dash, there's nothing. If I take it up to where we were 0.5, you can see it's got this rounded corner now. You could also choose in here to have a solid line border all the way around, and then you can choose where you want that border. If you've used Excel or something like that, you'll be familiar with these tools. This refers to all 4 edges, so you're affecting the border all the way around the object. This one is just the top border, this is just the bottom, this is just the left, and this is just the right. So this might be if you wanted to put a divider down the side of a column or something like that, you could use that and put a line down the side. So if I do, let's do all the way around. When you select one, it goes pink, and then it asks you to select the width in pixels. So let's just do 4 so you can see it, and you can see on here it's put a 4 pixel wide line around the edge, and you can then choose the color of the line. So let's do it in green so you can see that. Yeah, you can see that quite well there. So I can then go in, I could change that. If I wanted that to be a dotted line, I can click that, and you can see that's gone to a dashed line. I should say dashed. Then you've got a dotted line here. So depending on what you want to use, if I didn't want a background, I could have just a dotted line. Obviously, it doesn't look very good on this image. So if I take that off now, if you want to take the border off, you can click the cross, and that removes it. Let's say I wanted to put the border on. Let's take that off for a moment. Take that off completely. Bring that down. There we go. So that's off. If I want to put a border just down the right hand side, I would select that one. I would select my straight line, and let's make it a 4 pixel width, and you can see it's just put the border down the side. Or I can put it on the bottom. Each time you do it, you need to select the pixel width, or I could just have it around those 3 edges. You see, like that. And you can still affect the corners as you go. So you can really get some really good control over it once you understand how to use these tools. So let's take that off there for now. Take that down to 0, or to its default. There we go, we're back to normal. So then after border, you've got animation. So this is quite a new feature they've added. If you click on an item, say this logo, I can click on animation. I might want it to bounce when the page loads. I might want a delay on that of, say, 2 seconds. Let's just preview that. 1, 2, there we go, and it bounces. Okay, then I mean, you've got so many, take the delay off, you've got so many different options in here. There's absolutely tons of these. Some of these are a bit weird, but you get the idea. So 2 second delay, and then it bounces in. So there's tons of those you can just play around with and see if there's any you like. Sometimes they can be a little bit annoying, but it depends. If it works with your design, then feel free to use it. So then the next one you've got is delay. So let's say we wanted this to appear after 2 seconds, for instance. Let's preview the page. 1, 2, and then it appears. Okay. So that's that one, straightforward. Layout, again, is one that sometimes it just looks like this. You can't really do much with that. And that's because you're not selected on something that can actually use that tool. So if we look in here, these have got a layout. This is a container within a 3-column layout. And inside the container, we've got 3 elements. We've got an icon, we've got some heading text, and we've got some paragraph text. So if I go into layout, this is set to be vertically aligned in the center. So if I select left, that will align it to the left, that will align it to the right, and centered there. And then these ones refer to how it's spaced out vertically down the thing you've got selected. So to make this show, I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger. I'll go through this tool in a minute, but I'm just going to make this block larger so you can see it like that. So let's go back up to layout. So now I've got my three things here. They're just in the middle at the moment because I've got this one here. They're centered together around the center line of this, the horizontal center line. If I want them to be at the top of this box up here, I'll click this one. If I want them to be down towards the bottom, I'll click that one. If I want it to be stretched out across the whole item, top to bottom, I'll click that one. So they're evenly distributed, but they start at the top of the bottom. And this one, they're evenly distributed, but they're also centered, so they're not so far stretched apart, which is that one. So then you can control, as you can control the size of something, that will then move with it. So that can be quite good when you're actually getting into editing on the other devices. So I'm just going to set that back to where it was and go back to my vertical centered. Now if I went on the horizontal one, it changes the layout completely. Instead of putting things vertically down the container that I'm in, click on that and it puts them horizontally, and then you've got the same sort of controls over to the left, over to the right, stretched out depending on if this was a wide element, and then you've got whether they're at the top, whether they're at the bottom, or whether they're in line in the center. So that's what they do. The next one we've got is spacing, which is in here. And let's look at, let's say this text up here. When you click on something, so say I've got this container here, this black, 30% black container, I've already got some spacing in, some padding around the edge. If I click on spacing, you'll see. And by the way, when you've got something selected like this, you can see all these little green dots. That means that this has got something applied to it other than the default setting. So that means I've changed some text parameters. I've changed the background parameter because obviously it's got this background on it. I've changed the border parameter because I've got a curved edge on it. I've changed the layout because I've made it align left. I've changed the spacing, which I'm going to show you now. I've changed the size. So it just shows you if you've got one of these on there, you've done something other than the default to it. So I'm just going to click on spacing, and you can see in here I've got what's called padding. So you've got the dark empty area in the middle, which refers to, if you think of that as the middle of the thing you're editing, then you've got this area here which is called the padding. Then you've got a thin sort of empty area around that. That refers to the edge of what you've selected, the outer edge. So if you think of that as the outer edge, everything inside of that is padding. So that's spacing inside of the outer edge, and anything outside of the outer edge is margin. So you can see on this I've got 1.5 padding all around and 2 at the bottom. If I bring that down, you can see how that's now right up against the edge on all 4 sides. Okay, so if I want to give it more space around the inside of the outer edge, if that makes sense, I will increase that and it will do that accordingly. Okay, now the opposite outside of that, which is the margin, if I wanted to change the margin, I can select where I want to do it. So say I want to do the left hand side outside of what I've selected, and the top above what I've selected outside of it, and then I can increase that, and that brings the whole thing in because I'm creating more space around the edge, the outside edge of it. So I hope that makes sense. And you can select, when you've got it selected and it's pink, you're just affecting that one. So if I just wanted to do the top there, or if I just wanted to do the left, so you can get lots of control over your elements. And the same with the padding. If I just wanted to bring the left in a bit more, or I wanted to take it out a bit more, you can completely change that however you like, really. So that's that one. And the same applies. You can do that on an element, you can do it on a text block, you can do it on images, whatever you've got this option here to change, margin, padding. This will look a bit weird when I do this, but it effectively brings it in, but you can still see the outer shadow because I've got that on there. So take that back off. So that's spacing. Next one you've got is size. So here you've got a width and you've got a height, and depending on what you've got selected and what attributes you've given it, it will change according to what's selected. So let's go into that. So size. So on the block, normally you can have it either the automatic px is pixels, so that's a standard specific measurement that's fixed. Relative to page is the size of the object relative to the page itself, and relative to parent is the size of the object relative to whatever it is inside. So if a block is inside the main body of the page, it's relative to its parent. If you've got a container within a block, the block is the parent of the container that is inside it. So that's quite a good way of controlling sizing when you're using multiple devices. So for instance, if I look at this, if I go to the layout container here, which has got all these 3 columns in, I click on sizing, that is set to be 100% width, so the full width of this container that contains this 3x3 layout. If I wanted to make that 80% of that size, I can bring that down, see how it changes it, and equally I can do it if I go up to the previous level, the container that holds this. If I click on that, I can also change the size of that, and I can make that 80% of the width. And what that will do is, as I change the width of my page, it will mean that this will always have, it will be 80% of whatever the page becomes. So as it shrinks, it will shrink with the page. Whereas if you had it as a fixed size, relative to, not relative to the page, relative to the page or pixels, particularly pixels, if I fix it to be, say, 700 pixels wide, that's always going to be fixed. So you can imagine on a phone, a 700 pixel wide container is going to go off the edges, and you're going to get a scroll bar at the bottom, and the phone is going to want to dance all over the place when you're scrolling around. So the one I tend to use the most is relative to parent, and then you can control it much easier that way on multiple devices. So a little tip for you there. The same applies for the height. You can have it set to auto, or you can have relative to the page, relative to the parent again. So it depends on what you're working with, is how you want this alignment to work. And then you can set a minimum width, which you could set it to be a minimum of 100% size, so that it doesn't change, or you can set maximum widths in specific sizing in here. So you can see I can change those, and then it will never get bigger than a certain size that you specify here. You see? I don't tend to use those as often. The main ones I use is relative to parent on both the height and the width. So that's size. Shading, again, really straightforward, like we've got on this logo up here. I don't know if you can see that. We've got a shadow on here. If I take it off, it's very subtle. You see it just disappear. Put it back on there. And I've also used it on these images. You can just see there's a drop shadow behind them. You actually see it better when I take it off, which is the standard setting that it comes in with. So let's take that back to what it was. And then the last one, you've got custom attributes. So you can put in custom CSS, which gets a little bit more involved. We're not going to go into that in this video, but you can, similar to how you can on things like WordPress, you can create custom CSS attributes and apply them to elements on your page. And you can put them right in here, and they'll apply straight on the page. So it makes it so easy to do, but you don't really need that. I don't use that very often. There's so many features being added all the time that you've got plenty on here that you can build great websites on with GroovePages very easily, very quickly, and the websites you build are really fast, and they rank really well in Google, because you've got they're so well optimized for mobile, so they're very friendly for SEO and all that sort of stuff. So that's about it for this video. I just wanted to take you through every tool so that you understand what they do. Even if you haven't used half of them, it's useful to know what they are, or to keep this video for future reference. You can go back and forward and play around with different tools. as I've said through this whole series, I think it's better to know, if you know what the tools do, if you know how the software works from the ground up, you're in a much better position, and it makes it much less frustrating when you're trying to get something done. If you understand what tools you need to get the job done, it makes your life much easier. So I hope you've liked this video. If you have, feel free to give it a like. Let us know in the comments. I love to hear your comments on the videos. So yeah, we'll look forward to hearing from you. If there's anything you want covered in future videos, please let us know. Get in contact either in the comments or info@grooveuser.com. We're going to be making a lot more videos in the future, not just in GroovePages, but also the entire suite of GrooveFunnels. So be sure to subscribe to the channel for that, and if you hit the bell, you'll get notified as and when we add new videos. Now, if you're yet to get your free copy of GroovePages, then you can head over to grooveuser.com, where you can grab your free account. There's no credit card needed or anything. You just grab that straight away. If you've already got GroovePages and you're thinking of upgrading, you can get everything, unlimited access to it, and you get all these products as well, and GrooveCart as well, which is fantastic. So if you're into e-commerce, that sort of thing, I mean, like I say, GroovePages is the tip of the iceberg in terms of what GrooveFunnels can do. So if you head over to GrooveUser, have a look, grooveuser.com, and we've got some pretty cool bonuses on there as well for anyone that wants to get the full package, which they're doing a lifetime package at the moment, which means you get absolutely everything for one-off price and no more monthly fees, which is brilliant. That's what I've done, and it's what thousands of others have done so far, and climbing. So hopefully I'll see you on the inside in one of the Facebook groups, or get in touch on the website or via the YouTube channel. So thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.